It's so lonely, it's so lonely, it's so lonely, I could die. Well, can you live with it?
What?
I said, can you live with it?
Live with what?
That son of a bitch walking around breathing the same air as you. Getting away with it every day. Are you haunted?
Yeah.
You want to get unhaunted?
Oh, yeah.
All right, kill him. Shoot him in the face. Put him down like a dog.
I can't believe what you're telling me.
See, nothing I just saying that, dude.
You do that?
Fuck don't deserve to live.
Look, he just haunt me, you know? I mean, I do want to kill him, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life in jail.
Hey, man, I don't blame you.
I thought I'd get away with it.
Get away with it? Killing's the hard part. Getting away with it, that's easy. You think a cop gives a fuck about a pimp? Listen, every pimp in the world gets shot. 2 in the back of the fucking head. Cops throw a party, man. As long as you're not at the scene of the crime, smoking gun in your hand, you get away with it. Clarence, I like you. I always have. Always will.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Dana Buckler Show. My name is Dana, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Jason Waters. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing awesome, thanks.
Outstanding, outstanding. So, clarify things here. When we decided we were going to do the Tarantino retrospective, I think initially we were just going to do movies that he directed.
Right.
But there was a couple of...
so much more.
There was a couple of factors in play as to why I said, we need to do True Romance, because this is such a important movie, not just because of the movie it is, but because of sort of the history behind the screenplay. You know, it's one of the first screenplays that he wrote, one of the first ones he was able to sell.
Yep.
And so, you know, without this film, I don't know if we get Reservoir Dogs. I think we eventually get these movies, but not in the timetable that they were released.
This is one of the ones that just started to impress. Like, I remember reading something about Tony Scott when he first got both Reservoir Dogs and the scripts. He just went, "Oh my God, I have to make these movies."
Yeah.
Like when you start reading this and it starts to hit you that this is something that's just never been done before.
And for the younger listeners out there, all right, let's not like mince words here. Like, if Tony Scott says he wants to make one of these movies, they're going to get made, because Tony Scott is 1986 Top Gun, 1987 Beverly Hills Cop 2, 1990 Days of Thunder, which is a more maligned film, but still made a ton of money. So he's one of the hot directors out there. So if he wants to make this movie, it gets made.
Right.
So that's got to tell you how much this script really impressed him. And from what I understand, like, there was very little change to this screenplay. Like, when you watch the credits, it
other
says,
than some things, I mean, it stayed pretty true to the source.
The original screenplay, the original script for True Romance was not told in a chronological order, you know, which is typical for Tarantino. But when you listen to the dialogue in this movie, like, oh, it's Tarantino through and through. In fact, you know, we talk about in the Reservoir Dogs, we talk about My Best Friend's Birthday, the short, the feature length film that he attempted to make. That there's only 40 minutes left in it. Like, there are swaths of dialogue from My Best Friend's Wedding that are in this movie.
Yeah.
This has a written by credit and nothing else. Like, it's not screenplay by someone else, story by someone else. It is written by Quentin Tarantino.
And I think he said that Christian Slater's portrayal of Clarence in this is the closest he can approximate to him being in a movie.
Yeah.
It's as close to autobiographical as he could make.
Yeah. And I think I want to start by saying that, you know, if I was to make a definitive top 5 favorite movies of all time, there is no question that this film, like, it would be on my top 5.
Wow.
Don't know where.
Okay.
This came out just at the right time for me. You know,
Yeah.
it came out in 93. I didn't see it till 94 when I was 16. I saw it on a home video. I remember the ad campaign for this when it came out. No idea it had Tarantino, you know, affiliation of any kind.
Yeah. I had no idea either. And I remember I got in trouble because the first time I watched it was at Dave's Video.
Oh, yeah.
And I had no idea there was going to be such violence. And I had that scene on when some customers were in. I was just like, I can't turn it off.
Did you have the Drexel scene or the James Gandolfini scene?
Gandolfini scene.
Gandolfini scene. All right. So I just want to make sure we put this out there right away. Spoilers for True Romance. If you haven't seen the film, we're going to be dissecting several scenes in this movie.
Yes.
So please, if you haven't seen this film, stop listening to this podcast right now. Watch the film.
Yes.
It's funny because one of the I say kids. I'm in my 40s. There's a guy who's in his 20s that I work with. So one of the kids I work with, you know, I was telling him that he said, you know, what's your next podcast going to be about? And I said, well, it's going to be on True Romance. And he goes, well, what's that? I said, well, it's a movie that came out 30 years ago. So it's a 30th anniversary discussion. And I said, it's based on a screenplay written by Quentin Tarantino. And he knows who Quentin Tarantino is. He's like, really? I've never heard of this. And I said,
So many people haven't.
I said, here's the thing. Okay. The first 20 minutes of this movie, you're going to think that this is a completely different film from what it turns out to be.
Oh, yeah.
It is. And then there's going to be a turn. There's going to be an inciting incident that's going to happen, and you are on board. Mm-hmm. I want to just start in a little bit reverse order here, okay? Because
Non-linear.
okay. From how we typically do these podcasts. Yep. Okay, so here's the thing. This movie had a $12.5 million budget. It made $12.6 million. Yeah. So when there's people out there that haven't heard of this movie, that's understandable. Right. It kind of came and went, which is shocking because
right then The Fugitive was out. I mean,
this is shocking because this, again, for those who haven't seen it, if I told you, Jason, we're going to go see a movie tonight, and that movie has in it Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper, Val Kilmer, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, Christopher Walken, Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Rappaport, James Gandolfini, Chris Penn, Saul Rubinek, Tom Sizemore. I mean, the list goes on. If I said
we had Brad Pitt into that?
Brad Pitt. If I told you we're going to go see a movie with all of these people in, you wouldn't say,
"Yeah,
what's it about?"
Right.
You wouldn't say,
"I'm in. Let's go.
I'm in.
Shut up and take my money."
There were big names in this movie at the time of its release.
Yeah.
What went wrong?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that the movie posters showed Christian Slater on the front, and yes, he was still a bankable actor at that point, but it wasn't the high point of his career.
Well, where was he at his career at this point? He had done Pump Up the Volume. He had been in Robin Hood. I think Cuffs came out right around this time.
But this is when he started getting into his, Robert Downey Jr.-esque escapades.
He did.
And you really didn't catch. I mean, I never saw the trailer for this one.
I do remember the trailer just because the roller coaster scene is in the trailer. And
is it?
Just remember that.
But, I mean, Bronson Pinchot. So, I don't know. I think it's just the star power that we see today. I mean, this is James Gandolfini pre-Sopranos.
Oh, yeah. This is like...
So this is audition tape for The Sopranos.
Really. Because he's going to have a small role 2 years later in 1995's Get Shorty as one of the bodyguards for Delroy Lindo. But this is when Brad Gray was casting The Sopranos. I promise you, this was the performance that he watched.
But Samuel L. Jackson, he's in it for 4 minutes, maybe.
Oh, 4 minutes? No. I timed it.
You timed it?
Minute and a half.
And says some of the greatest lines ever.
Yeah.
But even still, at this point, what has he been in? Goodfellas, and had Jurassic Park come out yet?
Jurassic Park's going to come out this year. Hang on, just about. So
later on.
So this movie comes out 2 months after Jurassic Park.
Right.
All right. So we had discussed this, and I think I should.
But if you didn't recognize the voice, it was so dark in that scene that I don't know if you pick up.
He's got a fedora and sunglasses on. I mean, you got to know. Let me just double check here while I'm looking here. Hang on just a second. This is where Samuel L. Jackson is at by this point. Okay. He is in an opening vignette in front of Eddie Murphy's Raw, the stand-up.
Okay.
He's like the crazy uncle that laughs at the little Eddie Murphy's joke. He's credited as Hold Up Man in Coming to America. He's Mr. Senior Love Daddy in Do the Right Thing. Okay. He is credited, and again, this is what he's credited as, black guy in Sea of Love.
Okay.
So do you remember Sea of Love with Al Pacino?
Al Pacino? Yeah.
So he's in that opening scene where they all these people think they're going to have breakfast with the New York Yankees, and it's a big sting.
Yeah.
And he has a line says
He's black.
he's line, fuck that, bring on the Yankees. Like that's his one line in the movie. Okay. He's credited as taxi dispatcher in Betsy's Wedding. He is blind dream man in Exorcist 3. He starts getting actual names of characters. He's Stax in Goodfellas. Okay. Okay. So he's Gator Purify in Jungle Fever. He's Trip in Juice. Okay. He's Tat Lawson in Menace to Society. Now, this is where 93 is a big year for him. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So 93, Sergeant Wes Luger in Loaded Weapon 1. So he plays opposite Emilio Estevez. So that's a starring role for him. He's also going to have a starring role opposite Nicolas Cage in Amos and Andrew. Okay. And then he is going to be Jurassic Park and then True Romance. And then the following year, it takes off like, he does Pulp Fiction and then he's in everything. Then it just goes from there.
Well, and I think it's the same thing too for Gary Oldman. He's coming off of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
He had a
State of Grace.
State of Grace. Yeah.
But before that, he's not a bankable star, and he puts on probably one of the best villain performances ever.
And we say that because he puts on that performance because when you look at this quiet, distinguished British actor, all right, and he plays this role of Drexel, like that is putting on a performance of a lifetime right there. Patricia Arquette, her big claim to fame prior to this was starring as Kristen in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, The Dream Warriors. That was from 1987. So this is 6 years later. So obviously the big names in here are Val Kilmer, who you never actually
see his face.
You never see his face. Brad Pitt is not Brad Pitt yet. No, he's had that role in Thelma and Louise, and I think Legends of the Fall is going to be kind of next the following year, I think, or right around there. Christopher Walken's the big name, Dennis Hopper's the big name, Val Kilmer. But to look at it now, like 30 years later, it's like, these guys are amazing. And Bronson Pinchot, can I just say, like, he has the scene in Beverly Hills Cop, okay, all right, Sarge, okay, which I challenge people the next time you watch Beverly Hills Cop, when Eddie Murphy walks into the art gallery and meets Serge, watch Eddie Murphy's face. You can clearly see he can't keep it together. He's trying not to laugh because they improvise that entire scene.
Well, and I remember reading, it was an old Maxim article from Tom Sizemore, and he said that when Bronson Pinchot was on set the first day, they were like doing some dry runs, and he read all of his lines as Balky from Perfect Strangers. And he's like, he had the crew just cracking up. And he said, in the scene where he's got a wire hidden in his crotch, that him playing with it wasn't really scripted. He's like, Tom Sizemore said, my laughter in that is completely real. Right. He's like, he had me cracking up.
I would like to sidebar just for a moment. There's a new book that came out by Nick DeSemelin, okay, and it's called The Last Action Heroes, The Triumphs, Flops, and Feuds of Hollywood's Kings of Carnage. And it basically tells the story of Dolph Lundgren, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, Stallone, and all them. I'm mentioning this because it's narrated by Bronson Pinchot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got the audiobook, and I took a trip to Tallahassee. I had like a 2.5 hour one way, 2.5 hour other way. So I knocked out like 5 hours of the book.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if you didn't know it was Bronson Pinchot, you would never have known.
Really?
Like I was like, because it says, narrated by Bronson Pinchot. I'm like, that doesn't sound like Bronson Pinchot.
Where's the Balky I know?
So, but I say all this because he does 3 minutes in Beverly Hills Cop. A couple years later, he is doing Perfect Strangers for like 6 or 7 seasons.
Yep.
So by the time he does the role in True Romance, we all know who he is. So he's actually a very recognizable name in this film. So, and we've talked about Tony Scott. I mean, what more do you say? I mean, Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop 2. I mean,
and the critical praise for it. I mean, just to jump into the Rotten Tomatoes numbers, it's 93 and 93.
Like, that's insane.
And there's very few people. I think even Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars. Like, where were people going instead of going to this movie?
It comes out in September, which is kind of the summer block, quote unquote. The summer movie releases are over.
Yeah.
Like, Reservoir Dogs came out the year before. Like, I am perplexed, and I would invite any of our listeners out there that were around back 30 years ago, that maybe are a few years older than Jason and I. Maybe you were in your 20s or, whatever. I need to know why nobody saw this movie. I really need to know why.
Yeah.
So, but talking about the movie, let's just jump into it real quick. All right. So this movie is going to open up with our main character, Clarence Worley. Okay. He's sitting at a bar. It's in Detroit.
So another Quentin Tarantino movie that opens at a restaurant or bar.
Yeah. He's sitting at a bar. He's clearly had a couple beers. And he is going on about Elvis Presley. He's just talking about how much he loves Elvis Presley. In Jailhouse Rock, he was rockabilly, and he's having this conversation with clearly a barfly.
Yeah.
This poor lady, she is so perfectly cast, just sitting there, like she could give a fuck what he is saying, but she's listening. And
I think until he goes, I'd fuck Elvis.
Yeah, he goes, I'm not gay.
I'm not gay.
You're not gay, but if I had to fuck a guy, I'd fuck Elvis. And she looks over and she goes, I'd fuck Elvis too. Oh, so we'd both fuck Elvis. And then he's just like, and this is all Tarantino, because he's just like, so you want to go to the movies with me? And she's like, what are we seeing? And he's like, a Sonny Chiba triple feature.
Yeah.
Are they really doing triple features back, 30 years ago in Detroit?
I'm sure B movies. Yeah. There's got to be a theater out there that was doing that.
So he's like Street Fighter, son of Street Fighter, sister of Street Fighter. And she's like, you want to take me to a Kung Fu movie? He's like, 3 Kung Fu movies. She's like, not my cup of tea. So right away, he's a pretty smart guy in the sense of he's very hip.
Yeah.
He knows his,
Well, and here's the other thing I love too is 10 years later, we get a movie from Tarantino with Sonny Chiba in it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We're 10 years removed from 10 years before Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Cut to this is surreal. I was watching this movie this morning, and I want to stress, I didn't need to watch this movie today.
No.
I've owned it.
I always wanted to watch this
I
movie.
owned it on VHS in 94. I owned it on DVD. Ended up buying it on iTunes today, even though it was sans any extra features and still $15.
I know.
I was bummed out. But we are treated to such a, how do I say it? You have the most brutal, parts of Detroit in the wintertime with this most eloquent, tropical sounding, theme song playing.
That is
such a dichotomy.
That is the one thing I did not like about this movie. And I can't remember the name of the theme, but it pops up in the end of Finding Forrester, and it's just these lutes playing. And I just found it so out of scene. That's the one thing I did not like about this movie.
I can tell you that, it was Hans Zimmer that did the soundtrack for this. If you listen to what we'll just call the True Romance theme, if you will, it is a direct homage to Terrence Malick's movie, The Badlands.
Which had this in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's make no mistake about it, it is an homage to the opening theme of The Badlands.
And what a great movie that was.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't seen that in 20 years.
Maybe we should cover that as well, because it's loosely tied to this. We're doing anything we can just not to do the Jackie Brown episode.
Just put that off one more week.
We just keep kicking that down the road. We're eventually going to do that movie. But we just decided we have to do From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yep.
We have to do maybe Four Rooms, maybe El Mariachi and Desperado, because there's anything Tarantino's been in before. So
Golden Girls.
And you go through this opening theme, and it's such a stark contrast. Like the music, the visuals you're seeing versus the music you're hearing. You expect to see crashing waves on the beach and swaying palm trees with this music, and I thought it was really interesting. And then you get the voiceover from Patricia Arquette, and she's like, I had to go all the way from the byways and highways of Tallahassee, Florida. I'm like, I was just there.
I know what you mean.
I know what you mean, exactly. Lots of hills in Tallahassee. So she's talking about, she had all the way to Detroit to find her true love. And if you would have told me in a million years that true romance would be popular and possible in Detroit,
But I mean, it also, I mean, it still mirrors the Badlands with that voiceover from
Yeah.
Sissy Spacek.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's wonderful.
We're calling it homage, right?
Homage,
we're
yeah.
homaging this big time, right? We see Patricia Arquette get out of a taxi into the Sonny Chiba triple feature. I love this movie. I want to go to a movie theater like this rundown place where there's homeless guys just sleeping a couple rows back.
It looks like after the triple feature, there's like definitely a splooge mop show.
Yeah. So. They're definitely showing. There's definitely a 20th anniversary showing of Deep Throat after the triple feature.
There's a red light special.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Behind the Green Door is playing at midnight. But I just love it because they got like there's two people that are there to actually watch the movie.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of just homeless guys just sleeping. She shows up with a bag of popcorn. She sees Clarence, goes over, spills her popcorn on him. Come to find out, she was supposed to be there.
Yes.
So
It wasn't a happenstance.
she sits through all three movies with him. All right. They're outside of the movie theater, and he's just like, this is crazy. Like you're a girl after my own heart. You sat through 3 Kung Fu movies with me.
Yeah.
And then she's like, after I watch a movie, I like to go get pie. Do you want to go get pie with me? Cut to, we're in a diner and they're just having this, like, there's a connection.
Yeah.
There's
And
sparks.
and that's the one great thing I like about this too is you can tell on screen there's chemistry between them.
No, there is. Because if there's not chemistry between these two characters, this movie doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they sit there, and the next thing you know, they're going back. Who's your favorite actor? What's your favorite color? Turns off. He says, "Do you have a fella?" And she's like, "Ask me that later." then Clarence is going to take. Oh, by the way, her name is Alabama.
Alabama from Tallahassee.
He's going to take her to his place of work, comic book store. He's putting on some music, and I love the line where she says, "This is cool. Do you make a lot of money doing this?" And he's like, "Well, no, not at all." And the boss is cool. He lets us borrow money, right? So we're just like establishing, like, this isn't like a movie trope where our main character's got a super nice apartment, and he's, you're like, how do you afford all this? Like, he's poor.
Yeah.
And he's barely getting by.
Yeah. And it's his birthday.
And it's his birthday.
Yep.
And they end up having, they ended up hooking up, and he wakes up. She's not in the bed. She's sitting outside of his apartment, which is a billboard, which is, and it's freezing out. She's smoking a cigarette, and she confesses to him right then and there, like, look, I was supposed to be there. I'm a call girl.
Yeah. He's like, you're a whore?
No, I'm a call girl, and there's a difference, And she like goes through this whole thing. She's like, I've only been a call girl for like 2 days. You've been my second client, and I'm telling you right now, like, I'm in love with you. And if you tell me to go back to Drexel, and he's like, what's Drexel? What's a Drexel? Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
We're going to find out at some point. So they end up like going through this like immediate, like, I'm in love with you. You're in love with me. And she says, like, if I'm with you, I'm totally monogamous. And next thing you know, cut to, they've gotten married at the courthouse.
Yep.
Getting matching tattoos.
Miss Whirly. Yep.
Yeah, matching tattoos. This is interesting because he's asking questions.
Yeah.
What did you have a pimp? Drexel, what was he like? Was he a nice guy? And she's like, well, he treated us okay. I wouldn't go so far as to say he was a nice guy.
Like, if you punched a girl in the stomach yesterday.
Yeah, like, And he goes, is she black? Is he black? And he goes, no, he's white, but he claims to have like Cherokee Indian or something in it. And it's just bothering him. So they're back at the apartment. They're watching a Kung Fu movie, and she's drinking a glass of champagne. He goes to the bathroom. This is where we realize Clarence is maybe not all his dogs are barking up there, because he's in the bathroom. He's having a conversation with none other than Elvis Presley.
Yep.
Played by Val Kilmer.
Which you never see his face.
No.
Yeah.
But this conversation they're having is crazy. Because it's Val Kilmer's like Elvis Presley's telling him, like, how can you live with yourself,
Yeah.
letting this guy breathe the same air as you, walk the earth.
You get in trouble for shooting pimps.
Yeah. He goes, I'd kill him. And he's like, he goes, I can't kill him. He's like, no, killing's the easy part.
Yeah.
No, killing's the hard part. Getting away with it's the easy part. You think cop gives a fuck about a 2-bit fucking pimp? No, they'll have a celebration. Got to put him down like a dog.
Like, good God.
I'm like, this movie's taking a turn.
Yeah.
So he comes back and he tells Alabama, look, I need your address.
I'm going to get your stuff.
Can I get your stuff? She's like, no, you can't. Cut to Drexel. We're in a little hotel room. Okay. We have to be introduced to Drexel.
Yeah, you got to figure out what he's about first.
All right. So for those that haven't
To be
seen
appropriately scared.
those who haven't seen the movie and you're like, I'm not going to see it, let me just paint this picture. You have Gary Oldman with the same eye he has from Hannibal.
Yes.
You know, so he's clearly like lost an eye.
Yeah.
And he's got scars all over his face and he's got long dreadlocks, long like light brown dreadlocks. And he's
Speaking in, I mean, just the most Detroit dialect. You would never, ever guess he's British.
no,
Ever.
never. And for a lot of people, this was their first introduction to him. So
Yeah.
I mean, unless you knew it was Gary Oldman, you'd never know it was Gary Oldman.
No.
This is a little drug deal they got going on at like a little cheap motel. All right, they're arguing. I'm not going to get into what they're debating, but they're having a little bit of argument about whether you should do something or not do something. And one guy's like, I'd be ashamed to do that, and the other one's like, Samuel L. Jackson's like,
I eat everything.
I'll eat anything. This is as far as I'm going with that. Okay, and Drexel, he just like the one guy's like getting a little pissy with Drexel, and Drexel's like, "Oh, I'm just fucking with you, man. Let me show you what you mean with a little demonstration. Give me the." He tells him to pass him the shotgun, and he's like, "Nah, pretend you're that fine." Blah blah blah, and just shoots everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, and then there's like a suitcase full of cocaine, and
Oh, it's like that.
that's the first like violence in
Yeah.
the movie. It's hard too. It's like a hard violence. Like
Yeah.
by Samuel L. Jackson in the movie for a minute 25 seconds. And Clarence pulls up. We're in like this. I don't even know what part of Detroit we're in.
Upstairs of a strip club, possibly. Like,
I mean, it is this. I remember watching this morning. Like he is pulling up. This is like a 3-story building. Okay. And there are red lights in the windows and there are prostitutes outside just dancing. And you hear one of them, because I was watching this with my AirPods in so I could really hear the dialogue. And a car drives by and you hear one of the prostitutes, "Hey, you need a date, daddy?" So this is a brothel, a whorehouse, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, this is in such a sketchy part of the city that you're just operating with impunity.
yeah.
With immunity. Like the cops aren't even coming over there and messing around. He walks up with the sunglasses, that shot of him through the peephole, the techno music jamming. This is, by the way, as someone who was a DJ for many years, like this is early on, like 94 is still. EDM
EDM's not there
has
yet.
not exploded around the world the way it is. So guy answers the door, big giant guy. He's actually kind of nice. I was thinking, he's like, "You need something?" He's like, "Yeah, Drexel. Are you Drexel?" He goes, "No, I'm Marty. I need to see Drexel." And this is just, I mean,
this whole scene is so tense. From knocking on the door after you know who he's going to see and what he's capable of, you're just scared the entire time. You're like, you don't have the capability to go up against this guy. We don't know what you're made of yet.
we've established that Clarence has a gun. He's got it in his ankle. It looks like a 357 snub nose. Like it's a big revolver.
Yeah.
We've established that he has that, but he is way in over his head here. And Drexel is just sitting there. He's eating Chinese food. And Marty just kind of whispers in his ear. He's asking about Alabama. And Drexel's like, "Where the fuck is that bitch?" You know? And he's like, "She's with me. Who the fuck are you?" I'm her husband. And I love that line. He goes, "Well, that makes us practically related." And he's like, "Hey, man, sit down." This is the part where I'm always like, why didn't you just sit down?
Yeah.
"Hey, man, sit down. I got everything here from a diddle-eyed doe to a diddle-eyed Joe to a damned if I know." No thanks. That's where Clarence messed up. He goes, "No thanks." Drexel just sees it. He sees that opportunity. It is so tense. When Clarence says, "I'm not sitting down because I'm not staying. I'm not eating because I'm not hungry. And I'm not watching the TV because I've seen the movie before. It's the Mac. It's the Mac. And I'm not afraid of you. I just don't like you." That whole line there. And then he pulls out the envelope. He goes, "Alabama's moving on to greener pastures," puts the envelope down, and there's a little payoff money. What's in that envelope is worth my peace of mind, and my peace of mind's worth that not one penny more. And I'm thinking to myself, how much money is in this envelope?
And not just that, but it sounded, I mean, you would expect to see from someone else is him practicing that line in the car.
Yeah, you're right.
It just comes out that way.
It rolls out.
It's just him in the perfect Tarantino dialogue.
And So when Drexel takes a knife and opens the envelope, and the music just kind of kicks in right at the right time when he opens the envelope to reveal that it's empty. He goes, it's empty. And you cut back to Clarence, and he's got a smirk on his face. Like, he's like, you know what? Fuck you too. And I just like that. And then this is the part where I want to confess that I tried to show this movie to my parents back when I was like 16 years old. Okay. And we get to this part, right? We get to this part. And this is where Drexel takes his food, his tray of food, throws it at Clarence. Fight ensues. My mom's like, I'm out.
I'm done.
I am done. And shame on you for watching this. And my dad's like, oh, I'll probably watch a few more minutes. My mother's like, come on. My dad's like, shit. My dad, because I could tell my dad was into this. Yeah. And my mom was like, nope.
I'm done.
So they end up kicking the shit out of Clarence. I remember this. Drexel gets his wallet.
And when he gets the wallet and he's like, go get Alabama.
Bring your dumb ass back here.
That's when I'm like, yep, no, this is done.
Yeah. Something happens. Clarence takes out a gun. Well, he breaks Marty's nose, we should point out, too.
Yeah.
And then he takes out a gun, shoots Drexel in the groin, and then, for a lack of a better term, executes him.
Yep.
Tells one of the girls, get Alabama's things. Get a suitcase, get Alabama's things. And he says, I just did you the biggest fucking favor of your life. Grabs the suitcase, goes back, comes in. She's all stressed out, rightfully so. Yeah. He's got a burger, and he's just like, it's my best burger I've ever had in my life.
Again with the burgers,
yeah. And he's like, I killed him. And she's just like, oh my God, I can't believe that. And he thinks that she's sad that he's dead.
Yeah.
And he's just like, do you love him?
Do you love him?
She's like, no, I think what happened, I think what you did is the most romantic thing ever. I'm like, oh my God. Did I say this is one of my favorite films of all time?
Where have you been my whole life?
This is sadistically. So she's like, oh, she's so happy to have her clothes back. Open up the suitcase, and it is filled with
cocaine, baby.
Multiple keys of cocaine. And you're just like, what is happening? We're only 30 minutes into this movie.
Yeah. And that's when you just realize, like, okay, so now we're moving on to a completely different line. Like, now what happens?
So the first 30 minutes of this movie is they've met, they've fallen in love. He finds out that she was a call girl. He decides to get her stuff back. He ends up killing her pimp, stealing his cocaine. And we still have an hour and a half left in this movie.
That's the other great thing is the timing on this movie was, I mean, it was a perfect 2-hour movie.
There's nothing drags in this movie. Nothing.
Action moves from scene to scene to scene.
All right. Now, out of nowhere, cut to Los Angeles. We are in a office hallway, and this lady comes out. It's a casting director's office. And this lady comes out, and she's like, Dick Ritchie. Michael Rappaport just comes in.
I know a lot of people don't like him. He's one of my favorite actors.
He's so great.
He's funny.
He's great in this movie. Yeah. He is so good in this film. And we're like, who is this guy? Like, who is this? And he's auditioning for the new version of T.J. Hooker. And he gives what you think is a terrible audition.
Yeah.
And then gone. And I'm like, what was that? All right. Clarence in Alabama, they're in a bit of a pickle. They need to figure out what's going on. So Clarence is going to go visit his father, Dennis Hopper, who lives in a little trailer. They haven't seen him in 3 years.
Yep.
Dennis Hopper.
Yep.
So good in this movie.
So good. And just, I mean, did you clock him on screen time? Can't be more than 10 minutes.
No. Total? No.
Yeah.
No. So they show up, and there's a great line. They come into his trailer, and they're like kind of like firing on all cylinders, and he's just like, hey. Slow it down, man. You just show up. It's 8:00 in the morning. I'm happy to see you, but slow it down. He sends Alabama to go get some beer, and he's just like, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah.
And, you find out that Dennis Hopper was a police officer. He's now a security guard. He's like, you still got friends on the force. Can you find out what happened? They go through a little back and forth. Like, why should I do this for you? And he's like, Clarence, like, I've never asked you for anything in your life. Blah, blah, all those times you were a drunk.
You're a piece of shit. And I didn't say anything. I didn't get on your case.
Alabama comes back, and this is Dennis Hopper's just like, he makes the calls, and he's like, all right, listen, here's the deal. All right. They think that, he's got an association with this gangster named Blue Lou Boyle. They're going to assume Drexel was just, tied up with this guy and he had a falling out, and he goes, they're not looking for you, nothing. And we can all breathe a deep sigh of relief. All
And
right?
at that point, you're wondering, like, he left his driver's license there.
See, first time I saw that movie, I forgot.
Yeah.
Like, I
You're
forgot.
How do they not know?
Yeah. Because clearly,
Because you're going to find out in a minute.
clearly somebody else got there before the police did.
Yep.
So they say their goodbyes. Clarence and Alabama are going to go to California. They give him some information. They're going to go to his friend Dick Ritchie's. Oh, so that's who Michael Rappaport is. So we're going to Dick Ritchie's place in L.A. Bye. Everything's good. True Romance theme swells up again.
Yep.
You know, Dennis Hopper kisses Patricia Arquette. He's like, hey, it tastes like a peach. You know, all's good.
Everything's fine. And you're like, oh,
everything's
moving
great.
on. No
Everything's
problems
great.
whatsoever.
Yeah, we get you
We're
call.
getting ready to wrap this puppy up.
Yeah, like this has been a good like 40 minutes. Like
Yeah.
we're good. So you get Clarence calling Dick Ritchie. All right, this is he's on the toilet. He's like, I'm coming to LA. I'm coming to see you. And
Like, did you get my letter?
where's the? I don't want to jump ahead. He goes, I can't even tell you what was in that letter. Floyd smoked the second page. You hear Dick Ritchie just yell out, Floyd, you used the last of the toilet paper. And you're like, who's Floyd?
I
So
love him.
we cut back to Dennis Hopper returning from a shift at work, walks into his trailer, immediately gun in his face, gets punched. He's on the chair. This is probably the most memorable scene of the movie.
The Sicilian scene.
So we got to spend a little time talking about this.
Okay.
And just to set it up, so you have Christopher Walken. He comes in, he says he's counsel for Blue Lou Boyle, you know, and he explains what they're doing here. He's like, you know, Blue Lou's associate Drexel, he's kind of worked for him in a courier capacity, and your son came in there, guns blazing, made sure that nobody was left, snatched by narcotics, is the word he used. And he goes, but, you know, your son, fuckhead that he is, left his driver's license behind. You're like, oh my God. So how do we break down this scene? Because it's clearly the most,
So here's what I think.
but it's one that like, I can't play this scene.
No, you can't.
I can't.
Not without bleeping out, 20 N-words?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, if this was a Tarantino movie, I think this would have been the opening.
Yeah.
To have you then go, who the hell is Dennis Hopper? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
You've got Christopher Walken interrogating Dennis Hopper about where's your son, and he's like, I don't know. Oh wait, no, I do know. He was here. They're going on their honeymoon. I didn't ask where. They didn't say.
Every time that Christopher Walken thinks that Dennis Hopper's lying to him, he hurts him.
Mm-hmm.
So at first time he punches him in the nose, and gives him a towel,
Yep.
a rag, and then has Gandolfini cut his hand, and again gives him a rag. Like they're always about give him a towel.
Yeah.
So
And Christopher Walken is just cool as a cucumber. He doesn't lose. So Dennis Hopper goes into the Sicilian speech.
well, because Christopher Walken says he basically says, look, I'm Sicilian. My father was Sicilian. The Sicilians are the great liars of the world, and because we're
37
such
tells, yeah.
because we're liars, men give off so many tells, women give off so many tells, and it's better than a lie detector. So basically, Walken's telling him like, I know you're full of shit. I know you're full of shit, and I can tell. This is why I can tell you're full of shit. And this is
And Dennis, I think at this point, Dennis Hopper realizes I'm not getting out of this room alive.
He offers him a cigarette at the beginning. He turns it down. And then right before he goes into this story about the history of Sicily, he asks for a cigarette.
Yeah,
Because
and I
he
love that fact that you're like, you need a lighter. And you're like, no, I got a lighter. I got a lighter. Don't worry.
tells him a story that they all have a laugh about it.
Yeah.
They all they're just laughing back and forth. But it's tragic because you can see it in Dennis Hopper's face. Like, he knows he's dead.
Yep.
And he's at this point, he's not going to give his son up, and it's going to cost him his life. Even if he did give his son up, it's still going to cost him his life. And it's such a powerful scene.
He proceeds to tell these Sicilians that they are not Italians. They're actually black people that Moors that bred with Italians.
Yeah.
And that's why Sicilians used to have blonde hair and blue eyes, and now all they have is dark hair and dark eyes.
Yeah.
And Christopher Walken, you would think you would see some kind of, emotion in him, anger, but he's just laughing along.
And he seems to be like surprised.
He's like, oh, okay.
Really? Oh, really? Yeah. And then Dennis Hopper says, so if that's a fact, tell me. am I lying? and you see Walken go, no. And he stands up and he's like, kisses him, gives him the kiss of death on the cheek.
And then shoots him in the face.
And then shoots him in the face and says, I haven't killed anybody since 1984. And he goes, go to Clarence's apartment, go back there, bring me back something that tells me where they are. You don't have to look any further than the fridge. Because right there it says Clarence in LA.
Yeah.
Dick Ritchie's phone number.
Not the smartest.
Not the smartest. So we're at basically the 1 hour mark of this movie. And watching this morning, it was very much like I watched Beverly Hills Cop like a week ago, just on a whim.
Yeah.
Because I love that movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is kind of like Beverly Hills Cop. Like,
a little bit, yeah.
You start in Detroit and then you end up in Los Angeles. And that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden we get a shot of Clarence's Cadillac going down a highway. You hear Aerosmith song playing. Camera pulls back. There's the Capitol Records building. Hollywood, by the way, the place we're staying when we go to Hollywood is
right there.
It was in that
was
shot.
It
was in
I gotta go back and look at that.
The hotel was in that shot. So, and this becomes like 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. And this final hour cooks.
Whew.
I mean, this thing cooks.
From the meeting with Bronson Pinchot to the end of this, it is nonstop.
No.
And I think it's appropriate they start off with him on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because that's what the rest of the movie is.
That is literally like subtext for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Like, so we get to Dick Ritchie's house. This is where we're introduced to Floyd, Brad Pitt, in such an iconic role, but he's barely in the movie, but it's so great because
few lines he actually does utter.
like, it's clearly very early in the morning. Like, you see Dick Ritchie sleeping. He's got like a script on his chest and there's like someone knocking on the door and Floyd's awake. You can see Floyd laying on the couch right next to the door and Dick gets up and he's like, Floyd, you can't answer the door. What's going on? He's like, hey man, I didn't even hear it. Over the door, Alabama's like, you call for a date? And he's like, what? Clarence jumps out. They're clearly dear friends. Like, they've been friends for a while. He drags Michael Rappaport out in his boxer shorts. He goes, come on. And they go to the Safari Motor Inn. By the way, still a place we need to check out.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying there. Not saying that's where we need to get a couple rooms, but it's a place.
It's still a place.
He says, get the honeymoon suite. Inside the hotel room, you have, I love this because Michael Rappaport opens up the thing. He's like, holy shit, you got a lot of cocaine. Takes a knife, goes in there, snorts some. By the way, I'm no expert on cocaine, but they keep saying this is uncut. Like that little bump he took, he's going to be zip zapping all over the damn wall, all over the damn room for the next 4 hours.
Yeah.
So Michael Rappaport, the reason why Clarence is meeting with Dick Ritchie is because Clarence is a smart guy. He knows he's sitting on about $500,000 worth of cocaine and he wants to sell it for $200,000 in one sale. Dick Ritchie, you're an actor. You know these Hollywood big shots. He's like, I don't know these people. And more importantly, they don't know. And he goes, I don't know them. You don't know them. And more importantly, they don't know us.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on, you must know somebody, because I just want to sell this and be gone. And we're going to spend the rest of our lives spending. And he goes, well, I know this one guy, Elliot Blitzer, he's in my acting class. He works for Lee Donowitz, big hotshot movie producer. Let's set up a meeting. Alabama. Clarence looks at Alabama and says, where do you want to have a meeting at? She sees a roller coaster on the TV. She's like, roller coasters? Roller coasters. And they go to, clearly it's like, I guess there's a Six Flags there. This is great. Bronson Pinchot is so good in this.
Yeah, and his face on the roller coaster, I think that's probably exactly how my face looks when I am forced to ride a roller coaster.
Do you not do roller coasters?
No.
Oh, listen. No, listen. Nope. I am front row. I'm Clarence. Nope. The way Clarence is loving that. That's me. Like, I am a roller coaster junkie.
And don't get me wrong. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love, anything that gets my heart racing, I'm in for. It's the, what do you call it? The inner ear equilibrium.
Oh, okay. All right.
It screws with my head and I'll get off of that and I'll have a headache for like an hour.
Oh, see, okay. I didn't realize it was like that. Like, so I thought you maybe like scared.
Oh, no, hell no.
No, because I love that shit.
Yeah.
So, at this point, Bronson Pinchot, Elliot, he's trying to be like all coy. He's like, so you've got $500,000 worth of cola that you're unloading for $200,000. And Clarence is just like, you want an animal cracker? He pulls one out. He goes, no, save the gorillas. Puts like this little shit like that. That's so Tarantino right there. They get on a roller coaster. As the roller coaster is going up the hill, Clarence gives him this bullshit story about how, Elliot wants to know, where did you get this cocaine? Like, where did you get it? And he's like, listen, I have a friend. He's a cop. He, he oversaw the evidence locker. He grabbed it. He's been sitting on it for a year and a half. He trusts me to unload it. He was my silent partner.
Right.
He knows that if I get caught, I won't drop the dime on him. And so they do the roller coaster. Elliot gets sick. He gets his boss, Lee Donowitz. So who is Lee Donowitz supposed to be?
That's what I was trying to figure out. Is it Oliver Stone?
No, I'm telling you right now, it's supposed to be Joel Silver. Because Joel Silver, I think it's supposed to be an amalgamation of Joel Silver and Don Simpson.
Okay.
Okay, so Don Simpson,
I could see that.
famously, Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer, Simpson Bruckheimer, which Tony Scott did 3 movies for Don Simpson.
Yeah.
Okay. Was famous like the wild man, like the cocaine guy, passed away in 96 of a drug overdose. Like,
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of Joel Silver and Don Simpson.
I could see that.
So
They kept talking about the Vietnam.
the movie, Coming Home in a Body Bag.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's gotta be Oliver Stone. But
Yeah.
no.
So we're introduced to Lee Donowitz driving in his convertible Porsche, and he
Speeding.
he's speeding, and Ellie gets on the phone. And he's like, "I'm with that party you wanted to meet." And he's like, "Why the hell are you talking to me on my phone right now?" First of all, he starts with, "It's Sunday. Why are you calling me on Sunday? I don't see you enough during the week. You got to bother me on Sunday." By the way, Saul Rubinek plays. I
kills it.
love this character so much. At one point, I was paying attention. At one point, he's got the phone to his ear. He's got a cigarette in one hand. He's got a bottle of water, and he's trying to steer the car all at the same time. And Clarence gets on the phone with him. He's like, "Listen, they're talking in code." He's like, "I want to open Dr. Zhivago, and I need you to help me distribute and blah, blah." And they're just kind of going back and forth. And Lee says, "All right, you know what? Put Elliot back on the phone. All right, listen. If he is what he says he is, tell him to come by the Beverly Ambassador, 3:00 Wednesday," and hangs up. Now, this is where Elliot gets a little coy. He gets a little sneaky. And he goes, "Listen, Beverly Ambassador, if he likes you, he'll do business. If he doesn't, he'll say, fuck you. Oh, and by the way, he wants a sample bag," which he didn't say anything about a sample bag.
And that's where he fucked up.
So they leave the amusement park, cut to James Gandolfini, shows up at Dick Ritchie's house.
Yep.
All right. Floyd is in there.
And you're like, oh, poor Floyd. You're about
Floyd's going to get it.
Floyd's done.
Floyd's going to get it. Comes in, and such a cordial conversation between the two of them. And Floyd is baked out of his mind. He's like, "You know Clarence in Alabama?" And Floyd's like, "Yes, I do."
This is Brad Pitt at his best.
Absolute best. We've never seen Brad Pitt better than this.
No, maybe Fight Club, but
Possibly.
yeah.
And he's like, do you know where they're staying? He's like, "Yeah, they're staying at the Safari Safari Motor Hotel Inn." He's like, "The Safari Motel Hotel." Yeah. He goes, "Hey man, you want to stick around? Want to watch some TV?"
So you want me to give you directions? Like, you take a right and
And
then
you just go down that street.
Just keep
Just
driving.
keep driving. And James Gandolfini's like, "No, I'm going to go. I might come back." Just like, "Oh," and he fucking lets him live. So now we've got Alabama being dropped off at the Safari Motor Inn. Clarence is going to get some food for them. Alabama walks in, and there's Gandolfini sitting in a chair with a shotgun.
and your heart just drops. You're like, okay, he's Christian Slater. Like, Clarence is going to forget something and he's going to turn around.
Well, they do a wonderful way of like Slater being delayed because he gets to this hamburger stand and he goes like, "What's the biggest, baddest burger you got?" And he's like, "That's a Super Diablo cheeseburger. We'll take 2 of those bad boys." Sees a guy reading a People magazine article with Elvis on the cover, starts engaging in like what's clearly a long conversation. Like they're talking about Elvis. Cut back to Alabama. And he's like, "Alabama, where's Clarence and where's our Coke?" And she's like, "I don't know, Clarence. My name is Sadie. We don't have any Coke, but there's a Pepsi machine right down the hall." And look, in interest of full disclosure, like I skipped past this scene.
It is super hard to watch.
It really is. It's interesting because the version that I bought on iTunes was the R-rated theatrical version. I have seen the director's cut where this scene goes on for a few minutes longer. And frankly, he beats the shit out of her.
Yeah.
Mercifully, beats her. And she will not give it up. She will not.
No matter what.
Like she is prepared to die at this point.
And did you read that article about the Persuader?
No.
So Patricia Arquette was saying she was having trouble getting into that like how she needs to act and what she needs to do. And she asked Tony Scott for motivation. So he slapped the shit out of her.
Oh, you did tell me that. I think in our 101, one of our episodes, I think you did mention that. Yeah.
So then as they're filming, like as they kept going on, she kept asking for the persuader, which is Tony Scott's hand.
Wow.
And he would have to come over and slap her. And he's like, it's the most uncomfortable thing I've ever done. But if it helps her, then that's what I'll do it. Like, damn.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, if she wasn't getting beat enough on screen,
well, apparently William Friedkin was famous for doing that. Like he was famous for slapping his actors, but they didn't ask him to do it. Ellen Burstyn couldn't get into a certain, emotional state. And he walked up and just slapped the shit out of her. And then, that was William Friedkin. At some point she grabs like a little Swiss Army knife that's got a corkscrew on it. And she's been beaten to a pulp. Yep. And even he is like he has like a respect for her, like how tough she is.
Yeah.
And he goes on to this little monologue about what it's like to kill people. And he's like, first time I killed somebody, I threw up. Second time was a little bit easier. He goes, now I just do it to watch the expression on their face change.
Yeah.
Like he is void on the inside.
You realize there's no compassion there. There's
whatsoever.
no like, well, you seem to be a nice lady. I'm sorry I did this.
Yeah.
I'll let you go.
Yeah. Like there was not like, hey, listen, this will be over soon. Like none of that. Mm-hmm. Like she picks up the corkscrew and he's just like, he's like, you know what? You've earned the right. Stick it in me. Like, he unbuttons his shirt a little bit. He's like, come on, stick it in me. And she jams it into his foot and all hell breaks loose. And she ends up killing him.
Grabs the hairspray.
The lighter, smashes the toilet lid over. I mean, just brutalized. It kills him.
Yeah.
Clarence shows up. They escape. All right.
When Michael Rappaport's like, what happened to you? He's like, playing basketball.
Yeah.
Like,
he got that. She got that
like
playing.
She was playing basketball?
So, cut to one of the best scenes in the movie. For some reason, you've got Elliot driving Lee's car.
Yeah.
All right. And it's just him. And he's laughing and he's zipping. They're on the Pacific Coast Highway, PCH. And he is just zipping. He is speeding. Cop car gets behind him. All of a sudden, this lady's head pops up from his lap. You realize that what was going on there.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he gets pulled over and he's like freaking out. And it's like, you're thinking, not that big of a deal. Like, buddy, you were just speeding.
Yeah, shove it down your pants.
And he's just like, hey, listen, I need you. He pulls out that sample bag of cocaine, which Lee never asked for. And he's like, I need you to put this in your bra or put this in your panties. I'm not wearing any. Put this in your purse. And she is just like, no. And he's like, you're the one that wanted to drive fast. He's like, he's like, you fucking whore, after everything I've done for you. And she slaps him, hits the bag of cocaine. He's now covered in cocaine.
As the
officer walks over, he just looks over, just smiles and goes, hi. Enter Chris Penn, Tom Sizemore, police interrogation room. Fucking great.
And two future Tarantino film alums.
Oh, yeah.
Reservoir Dogs. And then, well, actually, Tom Sizemore was in Natural Born Killers, too.
Yep.
Not a Tarantino.
Scagnetti.
Yeah.
Scagnetti on Scagnetti, the name of his book. So
it would have been great if they had used that name here.
I know. They're like basically laying into Elliot. And this is an intimidation tactic. It's like, hey, listen, you were Mr. Big Shot until you got caught. Now it's all fun and games until you got caught. He goes, but you know what? We didn't catch you with like a little baggie or a little vial. We caught you, this is pure uncut cocaine. He's like, you're going to jail for like 2 years. And they start describing what's going to happen to him
raping
when you're in there. And this is just like a tactic that they're using because it's like, hey, listen, we don't give a fuck about you. Mm-hmm. Where did you get this cocaine? Because this is a lot of cocaine and it is uncut. Tell us where it is. Elliot spills the beans. He fucking tells them everything. They come running into their captain's office, and this is a great line when they're talking to the captain. Like, you're not going to believe this story. Seems some cop in some department ripped off this cocaine. They're going to sell it to Lee Donowitz, and they're like, Lee Donowitz, he's a big time movie producer. He made that movie, Coming Home in a Body Bag, and the captain's like, great fucking movie, good fucking
Craig
movie.
T. Nelson,
great fucking movie. And they're like, listen, we don't care, if you got to get internal affairs or the DEA involved, we want credit. We want to do this bust. So, and Elliot's agreed to wear a wire. Let us do it. And the captain's like, you got it. It's like, holy shit, this is all coming together. By the way, I checked the time. 20 minutes left in the movie.
At this point?
From that scene. 20 minutes left in the movie. Like when I say this last hour flies,
Yeah.
it flies.
Wow.
All right.
That's nuts.
We see Alabama and Clarence sitting on an old thrown out couch by the airport talking about what they're going to do with the money. She's trying to conceal the bruises with makeup. They pick up Dick Ritchie, who, by the way, phone rings. He got the part. TJ Hooker. I got the part. And you're like, oh, he's not going to make it.
Then we get another flashback to Floyd, not flashback, but another shot with Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd's just there.
Again.
So they make their way to the Beverly Hills Hotel. Cut to, we've got the cops giving, they've put a wire around Bronson Pinchot's genitalia. And they say, listen, it's the safest place for you. If they're going to search you, no one's going to search you there. You know. Cut to gangsters in a hotel room loading shotguns, like just a scene, like just a quintessential what I'd call like an 80s montage of ammo being loaded into guns.
Yep.
And you're like, holy shit, there's like 4 or 5 of these guys loading up shotguns. Like, whoa. All right. They go to Floyd. All right. Floyd's hitting the honey bear bong. They come in and they're like, you know, where are they? And he's like, the Beverly Ambassador Hotel. And he's like, hey, you guys want to smoke a bowl? One guy racks a shotgun and they leave him alone.
I don't know. As they're walking out, he's like, condescend me. I'll fucking kill you.
Kill you, man.
Which, and I read this too, that Floyd was the inspiration for what's his name? James Franco and Pineapple Express.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah. He said, you know, because he was a producer on that movie, he's like, if Floyd were to leave the apartment and get chased by gangsters, what would that movie look like? And that's where Pineapple Express came from.
Oh, I totally see that. Good. Hey, nice pull. That's good. I totally see that. So we're all converging on the Beverly Hills Hotel, Beverly Hills Ambassador, the hotel. Elliot's in the lobby. We know what's up. He's clearly acting different from the meeting they had at the amusement park.
Yep.
Get on the elevator. This is great. I mean, Clarence is a smart guy.
Yes. He proves he makes sure that he's not going to get in trouble when he gets up to that room.
Yeah.
And
Have you ever hit stop on an elevator before?
oh yeah, all the alarms go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's a movie trope.
Yeah.
Like I've seen
Well,
that in
it's
Die Hard movies. I've seen that like
It's the same thing as like when a fire sprinkler goes off. If you light off a fire sprinkler, that one goes off. Nothing else does.
yeah.
And you see it in every movie, like someone lights one and like the entire place goes up. No, it's that one head.
I one time hit the stop button. The lighting changes. Like people are immediately like dispatching like a little speaker. Like, are you okay? Are you alive? Like, so he hit stop on the elevator and he's like, Elliot, get on your knees. Like, holy shit. And he's just like, what's waiting for us up there? And the cops are listening in.
And they're laughing their
at
ass
first,
off.
yeah, they're like, I love this fucking Clarence guy. He's fucking crazy. Tom Sizemore is having a blast, and you hear Chris Penn's like he's going to shoot him, and Sizemore's like he's not going to shoot him. And all of a sudden, Clarence cocks the hammer. He's going to shoot him. And Elliot's just like, I just wish somebody would come and take me away. Take me away. I don't want to be here anymore. It's so good. And then they get up to the room, and this is so like. By the way, from what I understand, like the original script opens like in the hotel. Like
Oh, really?
this scene, like it starts here, and you've got Lee. He's got bodyguards with like submachine guns. You know, they're like searching everybody, and Clarence is like, no need to search me. You're just going to find this. And the one of the bodyguards, now what compelled you to bring that? And Clarence is like, well, whatever compelled you to bring the heavy artillery to a business meeting. Get in there. There's a projector showing like Vietnam helicopters flying around. These are my dailies. What is it? Sequel to Body Bags. What are we calling it? And he's like, what is June like? And he's like, Body Bags 2.
Next two.
So, you know, in this, the cops have said, look, to Elliot, you've got to get Clarence and Lee, you got to get them on tape. You got to get Lee saying, let's do this, get the money.
Yeah.
You know, and that way, and then you're free to go. Like, we got to get this. So
at this point, you know, the gangsters and the cops are there. So you got two factions
Yeah.
that are getting ready to meet up.
Plus, there's 2 bodyguards in the
that's-
room with submachine guns.
And their reaction to the cops coming in was, I did not see that 100%.
This is the best. It's the best. So Clarence, and he's like, I love your movies, blah blah blah. And Lee's like, when something seems too good to be true, it's usually because it isn't. Convince me. Clarence convinces him. You hear Lee say, "Get the money." And the cops are like, that's it. Let's go. That's it. And,
Rock and roll.
and there's a great line when they're right outside the hotel room door where Tom Sizemore goes, shit, I forgot my vest. Right? They bust in. Everybody put your fucking hands up, blah, blah. And the 2 bodyguards are like, fuck you.
Fuck the police.
Fuck, they're like,
you put
fuck
your
it.
guns
Yeah,
down. It's
we
like,
can kill every one of you and you know it. Put your, and fucking poor Lee's like, Boris, shut the fuck up. These are cops. We're all going to die.
and then there's Michael Rappaport.
And one of the Boris, one of the guys, he goes, there's something I didn't tell you about me, Lee. I hate fucking cops.
I know. And you start, that's when I realized, I'm like, oh shit, now we've got a serious Mexican standoff happening here.
Here comes the gangsters.
Here comes the gangsters.
They break into the room and you're like, what in the world? And by the way, we should mention, right before the police break into the room, Clarence goes to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
So he is not in there. In there is Dick Ritchie, Alabama. You got Elliot. There's this big standoff. The gangsters, half of them don't even speak English.
Yeah.
They're all like, everyone's like, fuck you, put your guns down. And all of a sudden you hear Elliot go, Officer Dimes,
Yeah.
Officer Dimes. And Officer Dimes like, what? Officer Dimes, this doesn't concern me anymore. And Chris Penn's like, just stay the fuck put, Elliot. And Lee looks and he goes,
Oh my God,
He
yeah.
goes, and he's so good at this. He goes, how do you know his name? How does he know your? And before he even finishes it, like he realizes, he's like, yo, son of a bitch.
I'll fucking kill you.
I treated you like a son. He goes, this is the best line. Now remember, all right, the police are in there, okay? The police are in there. The gangsters are in there. And this is what Lee says to Elliot. You can forget about your acting career. It's over. He says, you can take your SAG card and burn it. Not I'm probably going to prison for the rest of my life, but forget about your acting career. It's over. And he goes, you stabbed me in the back. He takes the hot coffee and throws it on Elliot. And I never heard this line before, but Tom Sizemore goes, don't you touch him, and then starts shooting Lee.
Oh, I didn't know.
It wasn't until I watched this movie on my iPad with my AirPods where I literally hear the line, don't you touch him. And that's why he shoots him.
Wow.
Because they kind of like bonded with Elliot, you know? And then this is just, this whole scene is surreal.
Yeah.
The feathers from all the pillows flying in
Oh,
the
I
room.
remember reading the thing from Tom Sizemore when he was so pissed. He's like, we shot this for like 4 days. He's like, and I get killed. He's like, I'm one of the first ones that gets killed.
Yeah, who gets it bad?
He's like, so I'm face down in feathers nearly half the fucking day. Like, that's gotta suck.
Oh. So lots of people die. Things start to calm down. This is where cinematographer and Tony Scott just have these beautiful sweeping shots of the room and the feathers just floating. And Chris Penn and one of his partners, they're hidden behind a couch, and then another guy's behind the couch. And the guy's like speaking Italian. And then how does Chris Penn try to translate? He doesn't speak Italian. He's like, hey, you, come out from behind the couch, okay? Capiche? It's like, what are you doing? And so the guy throws a shotgun. He's like, all right. Gets up, pulls the gun out, shoots his partner below his bulletproof vest. He's like, he's fucking son of a bitch shot me.
He dies.
During this whole melee, Clarence walks out of the bathroom and gets shot in the head. Is
it through the eye?
Well, I think it's like through like the eye and then out the side of the eye, but you don't know that initially. You just see him drop.
Yeah.
Alabama sees that. She comes freaking out, runs over to him. All right. You got Boris, the guy who says, I hate fucking cops. And he's just like, I need an ambulance. He's coughing up blood. I need an ambulance. Chris Penn walks over. He's like, shut up. He goes, I'll call you a hearse. This one's for Cody. Shoots him. Alabama grabs Clarence's gun, shoots Chris Penn. Everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead.
Dick Ritchie had escaped the
ran
hotel
out,
room,
yeah.
and he runs out. So he's going to get to do his new adventures of TJ Hooker. So he's out. By the way, looked at the clock. 5 minutes left in this movie.
5 minutes left.
5 minutes left in the movie. One of the gangsters downstairs in the lobby holding somebody hostage. All the cops are focused on him. Clarence miraculously is still alive. Alabama grabs the money. They sneak out, they get in their car, they drive away, they drive to the Mexico border.
Which in Tarantino's script, he doesn't make it.
He doesn't make it.
And I remember reading a clip or a quote from him saying, in Tony Scott's version, Clarence should have lived. So I don't know how Tarantino would have done it differently, but he would have definitely killed off Clarence.
Yeah, because that's kind of typical for Tarantino.
Yeah.
You know? So we get a closing monologue where, Alabama says the famous, you're so cool. And she's like, I wouldn't have done anything different, but maybe I wouldn't have named our son Elvis. And you see Christian Slater with an eye patch with a little kid and on the beach and everyone's happy. And it's a happy ending. And then you get the True Romance theme, which is appropriate.
Now it's finally appropriate.
Yeah, we're on the beach. Everything's good.
Yeah.
What do you think of this movie overall in the pantheon of Tarantino films? Because I consider this to be a Tarantino movie, even though he didn't direct it.
Oh, if you were to add this to his list, it's definitely in the top 5.
Oh,
maybe top 3.
Easily. And it's such, if you're trying to warm people up, if you've got somebody that's never seen a Tarantino film and you're trying to kind of warm them up to getting into Tarantino, this is the movie you want to introduce them to. It's a linear storyline. It's told in chronological order.
Yep.
You're going to get an idea of what dialogue sequences you can expect. The violence is there.
Strong female lead.
Strong female lead. Yeah, absolutely. And is this Christian Slater's best movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hands down.
I agree. Even though he may have the worst hair
Yes.
out of any movie he's been in.
Yep.
This is easily his best movie.
Yeah, and I think shoot, it's got to be up there too with Dennis Hopper.
Yeah.
One of his best performances, not one of his best movies, but
I think Christopher Walken was so perfectly cast as Vincent Kirkadia. Like he's really good in this movie. Like by the way, I want to see that movie.
I want to see. I want to see the next one of those.
Yeah, I want to see what movie he's in.
Yeah.
I want to see a Drexel movie.
Yeah.
I want to see a movie where Drexel's the bad guy, but he's in it throughout the entire movie.
And now go watch Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
And think about that one. That's Floyd's sequel. Everything
in this movie was really, really good. Like I thought Chris Penn and Tom Sizemore you talk about chemistry. Like they were such believable, like partners, like detectives. There was not a bad performance in this movie.
No, and I mean, in true Tarantino fashion, it's a caper, but it's like 3 different capers in one movie.
And I remember, and I was young when I saw this. I was 15, 16 years old the first time I saw this movie. But even back then, it's one of those movies where it's like, I can't take a break.
No.
I have to know how this ends. Once we get through the Sicilian scene and you're like, oh, this movie means business, and we get to LA, that is the quickest hour of any movie you'll ever watch.
I would agree.
Because so much happens so quickly, and but it's not hard. It's easy to follow.
Yeah.
At the same time, the whole thing is very digestible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is.
And I think, again, one of Hitchcock's themes was murder and violence and food. And I think that this one, I mean, this might be another one of those movies where someone is always eating something.
Yeah.
Which is like if you watch Ocean's 11 with Brad Pitt, which is another great movie.
Yeah.
He's always eating.
Yeah.
Every scene he's in, he's eating something.
He is pretty damn good in that movie.
Yeah.
By the way, not to go super off topic, Ocean's 12, overrated, underrated?
I didn't like the ending. I like the dialogue, but it's better than Ocean's 13.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of like Ocean's 13.
I didn't dislike it, but
I didn't like Ocean's 8.
No, I didn't like that at all.
I wasn't a fan of that.
Plus, is Danny dead now?
Yeah.
I mean, or did he fake his death? Yeah.
I don't.
Too many questions.
True Romance was released September 10th, 1993. Like I said earlier, it had a budget of $12.5 million. That's crazy.
Right?
Like, this looks like a $50 million movie every day of the week. And that's not like Tony Scott. By the way, you get whatever budget you want. You're fucking Tony Scott.
Yeah.
Box office, $12.6 million. This movie definitely had a second life on home video.
Oh, it's got a cult following. There's even a True Romance Fest once a year out in California.
What's interesting, though, you ask a random person on the street, have you heard of Pulp Fiction? 90% of the people are going to say, yep, absolutely. Okay, the other 10% are Amish. With True Romance, there is no middle ground. There is, yes, I've heard of it, I've seen it, I love it, or I haven't heard of it at all.
Yeah.
It's black and white.
Yeah, I asked 4 people this morning because I said I'm on my way to go do a podcast on True Romance. They're like, "What is that? Is it like a new chick flick?"
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's on Netflix.
yeah,
It's currently number 7
yeah.
on Netflix.
It's Sandra Bullock and Vin Diesel.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds makes a cameo. Stick around for the post-credit scene. He's in there, and Gosling's in the second post-credit scene.
With the Hulk.
Yeah.
And Mark Ruffalo.
Extraction 3. So, well, good. I'm glad we had an opportunity to talk about this film.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest criticism is that
What is your biggest criticism of this film?
Paul Rudd wasn't in it.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is right. I mean,
That's it.
that's going to be like the big criticism of every Tarantino film.
Every
is that
Tarantino.
Paul Rudd's just not in it.
Take note, Paul Rudd. You
Yeah.
need to reach out to QT.
So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Next up, I suppose it's going to be From Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn.
From Dusk Till Dawn. And then we'll,
4 rooms.
4 rooms, and then
A break?
then we'll do what's the one? Desperado? 'Cause Tarantino's in that movie, so Desperado.
Yeah. He did a spot as Elvis in The Golden Girls.
We'll have to cover that.
So, yeah.
We're going to get to that Jackie Brown. Right now, there's one listener out there going, "You sons of
That's
bitches.
my favorite Tarantino movie of all time.
How you just keep wasting my time talking about all these other movies?" So, all right, Jason, thank you so much for doing this.
All right, thanks.
And my name is Dana Buckler, and thank you so much for listening.